Inspired by a fun idea from my fellow visual novel YouTuber MR of the Vienture podcast, this video will be a unique tier list. Instead of ranking visual novel heroines based on their executed quality as fictional characters, I'm going to be exploring which of these quirky characters I generally consider dating if a version of them existed in the real world. Visual novels often serve as elaborate dating simulators, so why not take this concept to its logical conclusion? For this tier list, I'll be focusing solely on the dateability of these unconventional heroines, ranking them from what I consider least to most compatible with real-world dating scenarios for me personally. In visual novels, my preferred character archetype is the eccentric or odd weirdo. I'm drawn to them for their humor and uniqueness, especially appreciating those who stay true to their interests rather than conforming to typical archetypes, which is why they'll be the focus. Before we begin, let's establish some ground rules. All these heroines will be assumed to actually be at least 18 years old in this hypothetical real-world scenario, not those fake 18-year-old warnings arrogantly used to hide high schooler sex. And their ages will be adjusted to be relative to my current age compared to the original protagonist to keep similar age gaps. Any familial relationships, e.g. sister or cousin characters, will have this family aspect, even if it's not blood related, removed to avoid immediate bottom tier placement because I ain't for incest. As a reminder, this ranking is how I consider them date-worthy or suitable for a romantic relationship, not necessarily on how well executed I consider them as well-written fictional characters, though that can be a small factor. Starting off with characters I'd say hell no to actually dating, aka bottom tier. This tier consists of characters who, despite potentially being interesting or well-written, are absolutely not dating relationship material. These are the girls I would not consider romantic involvement with under any circumstances. Nana from Cartagora epitomizes how a weird girl can potentially be incredibly undesirable. Her bratty, obnoxious, and egotistical personality overshadows any potential positive traits, including that she's apparently a good detective. Her tendency to withhold crucial information for plot convenience, and her pseudo-incestuous comments towards her brother, even if I were not the brother, makes her the ultimate hell no, auto-rejection weird girl for dating. Ayana from Sora and Subahibi can be occasionally funny with her unique way of speaking. However, her frequent annoying philosophical rants and secretly scary powers and her true role make her an obvious case of me having no desire to date her. Makina from the Grisai series, while humorous and entertaining, has one major red flag. When you get on her route, she insists on calling her partner Papa. I know family psychological issues and all, but this would be incredibly uncomfortable. Her complicated family background and messed up situation further decreases any potential romantic interest in Makina for me. Apparently, some people like her, but I always thought Ayamine from the Muv-Luv series was the perfect example of how a quirky girl can be written to be purposefully super annoying. Her uncooperative attitude and trollish behavior make her impossible to deal with on any level, romantic or platonic. Even her occasional interesting development can't compensate for her obnoxiously frustrating demeanor. Midori from Kira Kira technically is a nice person at heart and looks nice, but her rash, emotional, airheaded nature makes communication with her very difficult. But more importantly, she does some dangerously selfish actions, including almost running over her own mother with a car, showcasing a dangerous level of instability before character development. But even after said character development, apparently growing up in Chie's route, it was off-screen and I still had doubts she's still fully stable after all that, especially since she's the daughter of a Yakuza family. Kanai from Fullmetal Daemon Muramasa to me has a great design and hilarious with her random outbursts and savage quips. However, her mental instability, violent tendencies, and hidden agendas obviously make her not relationship worthy. Dishonorable mention to the real reason why her eyes are always closed. Moika from Steins Gate, while being decently attractive for a neat woman, just misses the mark due to her secret motivations related to the plot and her constantly interacting with everyone through text messages, would just be annoying even as just a friend. Sarika from Chaos Child has interesting character development and goofy, quirky humor. However, there are certain spoiler-heavy issues she has that would not make me consider dating her, even after previously mentioned character development. Finally, Aoi from Totono has one fatal flaw, NTR cuckoldry. While occasionally hilarious and having a kinda wholesome arc of wanting to make friends, a major part of her character being built around this cheating aspect makes me not want to date her. I'm not one of apparently many NTR fans. Moving on to the Let's Stay Friends, aka low tier, we're looking at characters who, while interesting or likable, don't quite make the cut for romantic interest for me. These are the girls I wouldn't mind hanging out with, but for various reasons, I'd say are better suited as friends rather than romantic partners. Fuuko from Clannad is pretty wholesome when you get to learn her true motivations. However, her childlike appearance and personality make her an uncomfortable choice for considering romance with. It doesn't help that I think her comedy is pretty hit or miss. Lavi from Newton and the Apple Tree embodies the overly curious scientist archetype with good humor and plot relevance. However, this extreme curiosity is a double-edged sword, leading to her invading people's personal space a bit too often for my liking, and there's a certain H-scene kink twist with her that I wasn't super big on. Konatsu from Koikari Love for Hire is a character I consider generally pretty funny. Unfortunately, in real life, her complete obsession with sex jokes I think would wear out its welcome a lot quicker. On top of that, she's technically only dateable if you go out with her tsundere sister first, which is certainly not my ideal. Koyuki from the Machikoi series can occasionally be entertaining with her quirky humor around teasing and marshmallow obsession, but sadly her trolling tendencies could become grating over time in real life. There are far more interesting and consistently likable weird girls out there, even within the Machikoi universe. Rin from Katawa Shoujo has an intriguing route about art and her unique thought processes. However, I think her communication difficulties could lead to some seriously frustrating relationship dynamics. She's not a bad person by any means, just someone who might be better as a friend than a girlfriend, at least for me. Aki from Baldr Sky is a lazy coder, but at least she's much more likable than the average character from that archetype. However, her irregular sleep patterns, implied cousin complex, and a certain plot twist around her family just makes her sadly not very relationship friendly. Haru from G-senjou no Maou is an interesting female version of L from Death Note, but her humor can be hit or miss. While her involvement in the true art is interesting, it doesn't make me like her in a romantic sense more. Hell, I think a few of the non-true route heroines are more dateable worthy than her. Amane from If My Heart Had Wings has a likable personality and good routes, but her incredibly scatterbrained nature requires someone to always be watching out for her. Her extreme unpredictability might be too demanding for a romantic partner. We're talking about someone who will just randomly travel to certain locations on a whim without telling anyone. Yashiro from Amanatsu is an emotionless kudere with weird humor. This seems like something that'd be a plus, but sadly her humor just didn't hit for me. She's nice enough, but not particularly memorably so. Her incredibly unrealistic body proportions courtesy of Azarashi-san also detract from her appeal. Finally, we have Yukie from the Machikoi series. She's actually one of my favorite Machikoi heroines with a really funny ventriloquism gimmick and wholesome route about her wanting to get more friends. Sadly, I think Yukie and I would have the issue where our base personalities are just way too similar, being overly shy in real life. I do like that she's nice and domestic and all, but she's just a great case of me thinking about potential compatibility. Next, we have the Needs Major Improvement tier, aka the lower mid tier, where we have characters that in theory I would consider very date-worthy, but just have one fatal flaw that would ultimately make me lean towards not quite wanting to date them. These issues could range from annoying personality traits to more serious psychological concerns. Let's start with Misaki from Aokana. While her goofy personality, physical attractiveness, and character development are quite appealing, her excessive and annoying tease humor is a major drawback for me. I would say Misaki would need to heavily tone down her teasing to a more balanced and considerate level, but sadly even in X or 2, she never fixes this issue or even comes close. Kyo from Iratori no Sekai shares my interest in eroge, and well, shared interests in a niche medium with an attractive girl is always nice. Yet her repetitive humor around comparing everything to games and VNs just sadly wasn't as funny as I wish it could be. Also, wanting to call her boyfriend Oni-chan to remind her of her strained relationship with her actual brother would be uncomfortable for me. Kyo would need to develop more varied jokes and resolve her family problems in a healthier way. Sachi from Grisaya has a nice, loyal personality and really funny literal interpretations of requests, but her extreme methods of character development are concerning. Let's just say that meme where there's a bunch of houses on fire with Sachi's happy face on it says it all. Sachi just needs to find healthier ways to address her past issues than how the Fruit of Grisaya handled it. And Tenna from Dohna is pretty entertaining with her goofy personality, design, and natural curiosity. However, I'm not particularly into her Dempa gimmick, aka obsession with finding electromagnetic waves, and while her infamous kink around VR H scenes is funny to laugh at, I don't know how I'd feel about wanting to actually try IRL. If both these aspects of her were toned down, I consider her much more. Rena from Higurashi is consistently kind, insightful, has a goofy sense of humor, and is ultimately the heart of the Higurashi main cast. However, her potential for dangerous instability is a significant drawback, especially when you consider the arc that centers around her. Noticing a pattern here, if she could resolve these issues in a healthier way, she has potential to get even higher. Mikako from Aoi Tori is quite unique, with refreshing, savage honesty and surprising depth, even if it's mostly centered around care for her older sister. However, that sister relationship is a double-edged sword. The only time she even considers getting into a relationship is if she can get on one with her sister. Also, her potentially offensive bluntness could cause issues if I were to introduce her to other people. While I personally don't mind an overly honest, savage woman, I know many people in my life who definitely would mind. Asane from Nukitashi is quite entertaining, known for her hilarious, fast-paced, ranting humor and shared interests in games and visual novels with me. However, her overly negative and critical attitude at times, even towards her friends, is a significant flaw. In addition, she claims to be a lesbian, or at the very least, bisexual, with her only male interest being her brother, which complicates the prospect of dating her in general. Mikazuki from Musicus stands out as a complex and intriguing character. Her unique personality shines through in both entertainingly goofy moments as well as in her more serious interactions. As a singer, she undergoes significant character development, showcasing her growth throughout the story. Unlike many visual novel weird girls on this list designed purely for comedic effect, Mikazuki's eccentricities are grounded in her insecurities and internal conflicts. While Mikazuki's affectionate nature towards the protagonist is endearing, her dateability has one huge flaw: her struggles with anger issues and a short temper. They do add depth to her personality, but as someone who has lived with people with anger issues before, I don't know if I'm ready for that necessary patience again. Moving on, we're now on the we'll have to think about it tier, aka the upper mid tier. This section includes characters I'm leaning towards dating, but I have some minor concerns that prevent me from going to an immediate commitment. These heroines showcase strong potential for dateability, but are held back by specific issues like limited screen time, overused humor tropes, or a lack of character depth. With some adjustments, or just getting to know them more, they could easily move up in the rankings. Ruriko from Princess Evangel, in theory, seems like someone I should like a lot more. She's a very nice girl, one of the few to completely accept Masaya, the first guy in an all-girls school. She says some pretty funny euphemisms in conversations with her friends, especially around Masaya, making you wonder if she's actually joking around or if she just happens to be saying lewd things without realizing it. The problem is her route is completely forgettable, which is doubly disappointing because she probably should have gotten a route in the original Evangel. I guess she just doesn't really have much drama in her life. In a way, no real drama is better than some of the melodrama from the main girls from Princess Evangel, but at the same time, I feel like I don't know much about Ruriko besides her being nice and kind of funny at times. Torako, or the Kopo Club president from the Majikoi series, stands out as easily the weirdest character in a franchise full of eccentric personalities. Her energetic and wholesome nature, coupled with memorable moments in the Majikoi A fan disc series, especially A5, make her potentially stand out. However, she's very hard to consistently communicate with due to her broken Japanese and English. What doesn't help is her extreme lack of screen time and dedicated route. As at this point, I only know her at a very basic level, but with more character development and or screen time, Torako could easily rank higher. Sarah from Ever 17 is a quirky programmer hacker character with a humorous personality. However, her limited character development due to the story's nature holds her back. Her route ultimately doesn't develop her character significantly, and my vague memories from reading the visual novel 15 years ago don't help. She could potentially rank higher with more slice-of-life content or character depth in the supposedly upcoming remake by Mages. With that, I could determine if her dateability is higher or possibly lower than I remember. Shirley from Amaero Islands is certainly a unique heroine as a doujin artist with a very imaginative personality. Her hilarious scenes involving shipping her friends together in some of the best Ubisoft SDs and her surprisingly wholesome heroine route are notable strengths. However, her occasional calling the protagonist a pervert jokes typical of Ubisoft heroines hold her back. Additionally, even if we apply my relative age rule, she would only barely be above 18, as Amaero Islands unfortunately features a teacher protagonist with most routes involving student heroines. This creates a technically legal but socially uncomfortable age gap, which is unfortunate because Shirley is otherwise very lovable. Yukari from Kamiyawa has a unique detective gimmick and impressive observational skills. Her interesting character development and gap moe between her trolling tomboyish side and her girly side are definite upsides. However, her overuse of troll teasing humor, especially in the common route, could be exhausting. Thankfully, her route does have her calm down on this behavior, but having to go through the process gives you some pause for thought. Ruka from the Succubus Session series offers a surprisingly enjoyable, mature, quirky, and mildly teasy personality with an established connection to the protagonist before the story started. However, her succubus nature poses significant risks. More specifically, the in-universe explanation is that you need a high mojo power level to avoid withering up immediately once a succubus girl has sex with you. Additionally, the setting's potential for polyamory is not something I'd immediately be comfortable with. Essentially, I would have to be lucky and conveniently possess this high mojo power level, or I would literally die dating her. Kana from Iratoridori no Sekai stands out with her goofy mannerisms and excitable personality. Her route is quite good, dealing with relatable struggles that are handled with depth and sensitivity. Many of her quirky traits, like using a megaphone in school and making various absurd comments about wanting to be the perfect wife, along with her goofy, excitable expressions, are really cute. However, she tends to overuse a really old, bad at cooking comedy quirk, and her occasional annoying lolicon accusation jokes, and a certain heavy spoiler means there's a possibility she may not turn out the way she's presented in the story in real life. Misaki from Nukitashi is one of, if not the funniest visual novel heroines ever. She has a great mix of sexual jokes, random actions, savage humor towards her friends, and self-deprecating humor about her weight and lack of presence. She's also surprisingly nice once you get to know her, even if she executes her sensitive niceties in an odd way. However, her extreme obsession with anal, something I'm not super into, as well as me generally not being attracted to canonically chubby girls, would make me hesitate before dating her. Purely personality-wise though, we would get along well. Before we dive into the highest tiers, I'm going to dive into, I guess we can call, honorable mentions. These are characters I suspect are weird, but I haven't had the chance to fully experience their visual novels yet. My impressions are based on secondhand opinions from other fans, discussions in my visual novel Discord, or me only partially reading or watching a story that heroine originated from. Sarah from Island by Front Wing sports a goofy afro lolly design that's oddly appealing. I've caught glimpses of her funny moments, but beyond that, I'm not too familiar with her character. Based on some of her more unexpected actions, I have a hunch she'd land in the let's stay friends tier, but who knows. Shizuku from Summer Pockets might not be the weirdest girl in the game, but her peculiar obsession with breasts stands out to me. Apparently it's not even sexual, she treats boobs like sacred objects, working them into random conversations. While pretty amusing from what I've seen, I can see how this quirk could get old for some. Shizuku does seem nice and mature enough, but being from a Jun'ai-inspired key work, there's likely some tragic drama lurking. That potential baggage would make me hesitant to get close to her romantically. Kansu from Tokyo Necro seems like she'd be right up my alley, a shy kudere who talks in a quirky way. However, from what I've gathered, much of her memorable dialogue revolves around kinky interests, yet her route is surprisingly vanilla. This contradiction, coupled with her bisexuality and unclear preferences, would likely land her in the let's stay friends category. Michiru from Kara no Shoujo 2 has a reputation for being the weird one in the series. She seems intriguing, but I just don't know much about her. Based on Kara no Shoujo 1's tendency for dark psychological secrets, I'm guessing Michiru would fall into the needs massive improvement or I'll think about it tier, leaning towards the former. I do plan on reading The Shell Part 2 soon, so I'm looking forward to her there. I did QC testing for the fan translation of Sousaku Kanojo Renai Koshiki free trial version, and it turns out we do indeed have a weird girl in here, Elena, someone who likes to read erotica in public without giving a fuck. Given that the trial only covered the first 20% of the visual novel and Elena was barely around, I'll have to wait to see how her route turns out when I eventually QC the whole story. That said, she certainly stuck out with the few scenes he did have, with one scene having her helping the MC in a major dramatic point, and another part where she was apparently interested in the main character's reaction to him touching her boobs out of curiosity. My prediction is that she'll roughly be in the have to think about it tier, mostly due to the dramatic nature of the visual novel based on the struggles of being a writer, but we'll have to see. Lastly, we have Rina from Sakura no Uta. I know next to nothing about her, but Sakura no Uta is one of the most highly rated, untranslated visual novels at the moment. What piques my interest is that Rina is one of the few characters on VNDB tagged as both eccentric and a childhood friend, two character types I already enjoy individually. This rare combination makes her a potentially intriguing character, but we'll have to wait and see once the fan translation is complete. We're finally in the high tier, aka girls I would definitely at least actively want to date and go out with, despite any flaws they might have. These heroines are potential long-term relationship candidates, each offering unique qualities that make them stand out. Kotori from Riddle Joker unfortunately lacked screen time due to being a side heroine for understandable reasons. Unlike Machakoi's Torako, who lacked screen time and was mostly a joke character, Kotori's limited presence is more significant given how Ubisoft typically handles even their side routes. I think a theoretical Kotori route would be really fun based on the little I've seen and how Ubisoft moetizes their heroines, including fellow Ubisoft weirdo Shirley from Amuro Islenuts, who I talked about earlier. Kotori's mix of a quirky older sister mentor vibe, combined with a relaxed and easygoing personality, creates a character that is even more appealing to me than the already endearing Maou, whose route is the only one where Kotori gets the vast majority of her actual screen time, about 10 to 15 minutes at most. Kotori's natural curiosity and caring nature, balanced with her goofiness and maturity, showcase her immense potential as a Ubisoft heroine. If she were to get an actual route with development and even more well-executed Ubisoft brand moe, she could easily rank much higher. Chiffon from Meteor World Actor brings a unique blend of maturity and innocence to this list. As a working adult with a youthful appearance, there can be concerns about her actually being a lolly. While I'm generally in the medium is premium camp, I can appreciate a petite girl if she's of age and appeals to me otherwise. Her personal values around money and staying poor are part of her quirky charm, which I find quite honorable. Chiffon's route focuses on humor, particularly in addressing her sleeping issues, and her loyalty to the protagonist Ruka despite his obnoxious, brash personality, which is quite commendable. As someone who has sleeping issues myself, I feel this could potentially be our main compatibility issue, as her habit of rolling and crashing into walls during sleep would likely compound my light sleeping problem. However, her route does solve this through an in-universe version of Viagra for Chiffon's race, which could at least address the issue short-term. Dating Chiffon does feel like a fun prospect, even if we'd probably have to trudge through the struggles of being poor together. Sasa from Marshmallow All the Way Home shines as, in my opinion, the most wholesome heroine in an already heartwarming cast in Marshmallow. I love Sasa's character development, starting as a shy girl who makes constant funny self-deprecating rants, but slowly develops into a more confident person. Sasa's journey of self-improvement, coupled with her unique interest in writing children's books, makes her an ideal partner for mutual growth and support. There is a layer of uncertainty regarding whether I would share the same kinks as her, but otherwise, she seems like she'd be fun to go out with. Kotori from Rewrite, once my top favorite visual novel heroine of all time, is still easily in my top 5 and someone I would definitely be down to go out with. Her laid-back and humorous personality, along with her very endearing angrish moments, is complemented by her thoughtful and self-sacrificing nature. She's always willing to ensure there's food for group hangouts, even if it's just snacks. In the more serious parts of the game, despite what she's going through, she always tries to think of others, especially the main protagonist, Kotaro. That said, as we learn in her route, she has an unfortunate avoidance anxiety issue and a fear of commitment. Her lack of interest besides shopping at cheap grocery stores and gardening, the latter of which seems kind of forced on her, makes me think about potential issues in the long run. Despite these concerns though, Kotori's inherent quirky charm is more than enough to consider her a worthy, dateable waifu prospect. Sheena from Sankaku Renai stands out as the quintessential eroge-loving heroine. Her consistently hilarious visual novel references and her ability to relate game and visual novel tropes to real-life situations create a very memorable character. Asa Project is generally known for okay at best romance routes, but I honestly thought Sheena had one of the more memorable and cuter romances among all the translated Asa Project visual novels. Nothing special, but it provided a memorable gat moe aspect to her overly excitable, perverted personality. Her personality might be a bit too much for some people, and admittedly, there might be times where I would not be in the mood for her crazy ramblings. However, for the most part, Sheena seems like someone I could consider at the very least very fun to go out with. We'll just have to see what hidden depths she has over time, as I like to get to know her beyond her clownish personality. Maika from My Academy's Special Place, or Gakko no Seiki, is a very solid, quirky foreigner and nerd love interest. As she's a half-Russian, half-Japanese otaku, she embodies the perfect moege nukige heroine mixed with her passion for Akihabara culture and love for lewd manga, doujins, and visual novels. Her cute, goofy flamingo dance when the main character calls her out on things she did wrong is quite amusing and would make me want to forgive her. Her general, nice girl, kudere-ish personality adds to her charm. The main thing holding her back is that Maika is a great character unfortunately stuck in a pretty mediocre nukige series by Fong. Her interactions don't get to stand out as much due to the VN's short length, the focus on sex scenes, she doesn't get any character development, and there's some stupid situations out of her control, including a dumb joke and plot thread involving Maika's mom who basically looks like her twin for some reason. But if I can overlook that, Maika is very dateable and fun based on what I've read. Ayumi from Tsujidou-san no Jun'ai Road shows that a heroine does not necessarily need a route to demonstrate how great she could be as a waifu, though I do still think it's disgusting Minato Carnival never gave a route to her. Ayumi's distinctive appearance, marked by her Coke bottle glasses, immediately drew my attention as a goofy weirdo. Beneath her reserved class representative exterior lies a surprisingly wholesome and uniquely assertive girl. Ayumi's Coke bottle swirly glasses related gimmick, which in my opinion is incredibly underused with waifus in general, mixed with her secret career in the beauty industry adds a humorous element. Her self-proclaimed mama mode also showcases her quirky yet caring personality. Despite being just a side character, she outshines all the main heroines in Tsujidou series for me on a personal level with her wholesome personality. Having said that though, despite all of her screen time, the fact that she never got a route and therefore basically no character development adds just a small bit of fear of the unknown, especially since she didn't have many conversations with different guys. Ange from Mashiroiro Symphony, the self-proclaimed maid of all trades, fits very well as the ultimate well-rounded weird girl. While she's certainly not the only quirky maid on this list, I think she's much more sane, funnier, genuinely nicer, and has more interesting personal development than even Grisaya Sachi for me. The whole maid thing is literally Ange's gimmick, with her childhood dream being to become the ideal maid like her mom. This leads to pretty funny situations where she's hanging off ceilings or popping out of nowhere in a very excitable manner while doing maid chores. I could see some people get exhausted by her antics, but from what I've read of Mashiroiro, she's never become tiring even in routes that aren't hers. She's very thoughtful and energetic, but also a weird and funny individual who can be surprisingly outspoken and direct, yet willing to help out in any way she can. I also really like the development in her route. While it's not mind-blowing or anything for a moege, it's the only romance I can think of in anime or visual novels that fully sticks to a master-maid relationship while still feeling like a regular romantic relationship between equals. The more that I think about it, the more Ange seems very dateable, very close to top tier. There's just a handful of moments where she can be a bit too childish and attention-whory. Other than that, I'd 100% go out with someone like her if I found her in real life. Bonus points to the hilarious quirk of her sharing the same nickname as me, spelling-wise. We've finally reached what I'm calling the Big 3 marriage material tier, aka top tier. These are the heroines that go beyond just being fun to date. They're the ones, based on what I've seen from their visual novels, that I would be very tempted to quickly ask to put a ring on it. Any potential flaws these heroines have don't matter that much since they're exactly my type and someone I could easily have a lot of fun with while building a long, fruitful relationship, ideally leading to marriage. Maya from the Destiny Star Girlfriend series has a few minor flaws such as her airheaded naivete leading to awkwardly timed sex scenes and her kind of annoying adoptive little sister Petra. However, outside of that, she's an amazing waifu, an almost perfect mix of quirky weirdness and a doting older sister-like personality. Her innocence combined with warrior-like values and directness results in many unique yet endearing lines. Maya also exhibits a curiosity about the world due to her surprisingly dark upbringing, which I wish this visual novel explored more. Additionally, she has her own interests such as enjoying food and taking pictures. Initially, I was unsure of how being tied to her for dark magical girl fights would play out, but I ended up enjoying the magical girl battles with her more than even Yuri's route in the original Destiny Star Girlfriend, due through the surprisingly well done real superpower of teamwork. Her romance focuses on her helping her partner fulfill his desires, which would likely lead to an early pregnancy in the relationship. However, with a wife like Maya, she would undoubtedly make that work with her strong will and wholesome personality. Mirai may be a developer overlooked compared to its sister companies Minato Soft and Carnival, but due to their visual novels' similar writing, I more or less see Maya as a mix of Toriko and Ayumi's potential realized, but with her own spin of course. Mashiroiro from Making Lovers earns her spot as a nearly perfect dateable weird heroine. It really feels like the developer SME researched my exact taste in a visual novel waifu, both from an appearance standpoint and especially from a personality and hobbies perspective. We both like video games, anime, the same food, and making stupid pun jokes. As an actual adult-age heroine, Mashiroiro stands out from the vast majority of this list, which contains totally 18-year-old high school heroines. Her consistent, goofy humor and nerdy interests makes her relatable, while her assertive yet not overbearing approach to romance strikes an ideal balance for me. This is especially important since Making Lovers is all about a fictional take on real-life modern dating, where people generally get together quickly. Mashiro's route offers the funniest and most consistently wholesome experience for me, with a few surprisingly emotional moments. However, her impulsive decision to throw a promise ring at the end of her original route into the ocean is literally the only flaw preventing her from being easily number one on this list. While her remorse over that frustratingly stupid action and her afterstory route help redeem this moment, it remains a potential realistic hurdle in dating someone with an eccentric personality similar to hers. Honestly, if it weren't for this one flaw, she would probably be in her own "Yes, my queen" or something tier. Instead, this flaw was just enough to keep her in just the top tier, not in a theoretically, literally unbeatable broken tier. In fact, she's not even number one if I go purely off analytical objectivity regarding who would work out the best long term. That honor goes to Hinami Yamada from the Skyfall Star series claims the top spot due to her unexpected but incredibly appreciated consistent wholesomeness. She demonstrates genuine kindness through her random goofy weird comments across all routes, shining even in routes not focused on her. Hinami provides helpful and touching moments mostly through Hikari's routes in the original game and her sequel route in Fine Days. And Hinami's actual route in Fine Days, while it's unfortunately quite short, her actions showcase her considerate yet very goofy, unpredictable, and fun nature as a partner. More specifically, her admitting to being able to make sure she's not bored through the galaxy that is her own imagination, as well as her getting excitingly smug over ideas for a part-time job is quite endearing. I also like her general fit, especially in the Fandisc Interstellar Focus, where she has one of my favorite underrated summer outfits, a sleeveless hoodie with short shorts. While Hinami's Fine Days route may be shorter compared to others, her unwavering sweetness and lack of major flaws make her the most objectively dateable character on this entire list. Her petite, lolly-ish physical design admittedly is not my first choice in terms of physical attraction, but her personality more than makes up for that. The more that I think about any of her screen time throughout the Miyazora series, the more I believe this is the type of girl I wish I knew in real life, whether to be friends with or especially to go out with romantically long-term. And that wraps up this tier list. Kind of a goofy idea, but the minute MR suggested the idea to me, I immediately got to making a ranking and just slowly adding, removing, and editing it over time to get a list and write-ups I felt pretty comfortable with. But anyway, feel free to let me know what you thought of this weirdo girl dating tier list video in the comments below.